Hopeful American, aren't we all, from Bear Lake, Michigan, hit me and said, hey, I'm wondering if you think this year is a year that Penn State must win a national championship. I personally think they need to make it to the playoff and beat a team ranked equivalent to them or better, but my friend disagrees. He says they need to win it all. Well, this just means, is Penn State national championship or bust this year? You know, only on the rarest of occasions do I believe in that. Ohio State this past year was one of those. I thought they were national title or bust. All the events, it was a confluence of events and circumstances, and they had to win it, and they did. I thought it would have been a bust. Anything short of that would have been a bust. However, that is such an exception to the rule. So to answer your question, no, I don't think it's national championship or bust for Penn State. I would ask your friend there, okay, what if they don't win it? Is it a bust? What does bust mean, by the way? It's a failure? So keep in mind, he didn't explain what the A or B is. There's A, win the national championship, or anything else is a bust. Okay, well, there's a scenario where they beat Oregon in the regular season en route to going undefeated. Okay, then let's say they play Ohio State in Indianapolis and they beat them and win the Big Ten, and then they go win a couple of games in the playoff. They get knocked out in the semifinal or the national title game. That's a bust? You realize how much you just did that's right at the pinnacle of achievement for Penn State football in the modern era? That's not a bust. It's a bust if they go 10-2 and then they're one and done in the playoffs because you expect more from this group than what they achieved last year. Yeah, I can grant you that that would be disappointing. Bust? I don't know. I think it's disrespectful for how hard it is. There's an assumption, I think a lot of times if you make it to a certain level, like Penn State last year, they win, well, they make it to the Big Ten title game, then they make the playoff, they win a couple of games, they go to the semifinals. You can fool yourself into thinking, okay, that's where we pick up next year. That's not where you pick up next year. That's the tough part. That's the tough part of not getting the job done. When you get a shot at the title, is you don't just become the number one contender again. You start from scratch. You go all the way back down the ladder. You're laying on the floor with everyone else. And while you may be equipped to climb better than the rest of them, you still got to make the climb the next year. And there's all sorts of variability. You could have injuries. You could have guys defect or transfer. You could have the portal not feed you what you need. Like, are they going to be good enough at receiver to do more than they did last year? Jury's still out on that. But if you believe it's national title or bust, I ask, what is a bust? What defines a bust? And then the follow-up. Okay, hey, quick timeout. Check and see if you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. If you're not, I humbly ask that you click subscribe. It's free. It doesn't sign you up for anything. What it does is it helps us keep this show free so we can just do college football year-round. All right, back to the clip. Okay, if something goes bust, then I want changes. That's the way I would look at things. If you're a bust, then I've got to make changes. Well, does that mean if they don't win the national title, you want someone other than James Franklin? Or maybe we view the word bust differently. I don't know. But to me, what I want to see him do is win a game as an underdog. That means beat Ohio State. They got a great shot against Oregon. Colin, I don't know if you threw up their schedule. You probably did, and I wasn't looking. There it is again. If you're listening on pod, they play 3 games they should win, and then they've got Oregon at home. Oregon's replacing a ton of production, and Oregon's got to go all the way over to State College. Granted, it's early in the season, so weather's probably not a factor. Oh, by the way, does anyone want to guess what time kickoff will be there? If it's big noon kickoff, that is a 9 a.m. body clock kickoff for the Ducks. Is this the one time Penn State wants to play a big game at noon? No. Even though it would be an advantage, I know you guys want the whiteout. Look, I'm calling in all my favors to Fox. We may call Klatt on air. Maybe we'll call Joel Klatt on air. Say, hey, can you help us here, buddy? He wouldn't pick up this late. I don't think so. But my point there, because I was making one. I was off to a good start there, and I derailed myself. They play Oregon in week 4. That'll be a really tight point spread game. But winning that game, that'd be good. That's winning against one of the best programs in the country. But then I'll tell you the one I'd really love. See that game at Ohio State, November 1st? Win that game. You win that game, and you bought a lot of equity with me. But if it's just another one of those seasons where they split and maybe they beat Oregon because they should win that game, but then they go lose to Ohio State in typical hard-fought, close but no cigar Penn State fashion, and then they either miss out on the Big Ten title game or they go, but they get beat again, and then they survive in the playoff only up until they face an equal or slightly better than opponent, that's a failure of a season to me. Because when you got this much returning production, this much chemistry and synergy as a program, that team has a lot of it, not to mention your quarterback's coming back, you ought to be able to do more. I thought the same thing about Ole Miss last year. That's why Ole Miss was a failure to me last year. They didn't even make the playoff. But I just looked at it and I said, don't you have to achieve more than last year's team did, if a lot of them are coming back, for me to consider the season a success? And I think that is fair. So whether we consider the season a success or not, I can talk like that if you want me to, but I'm not putting it on whether you win a national title or not. That's a lofty standard, very lofty. Not that you shouldn't have lofty standards, but man, I don't know, that's tough. But fair, I guess, but tough.